The business session of the August 2nd, 2022 meeting to order at 6:21 p.m. All council members were present. I apologize for the delayed start. We had an excellent presentation on our riverfront development ahead of this and an excellent presentation on our budget. I encourage everyone present or watching this council meeting tonight to go watch those presentations because it really exemplifies some very exciting things that are happening in our city. Welcome all guests and visitors. We provide an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on any agenda item, or if not on an agenda item, during the hearing of visitors portion of the agenda. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted 1 3-minute presentation regardless of the number of agenda items the speaker wishes to address. If you're here and have not filled out a registration card, please see the city secretary staff at the registration table outside the auditorium so that staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation and staff will distribute those to council. If you're unable to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item of business to consider are the minutes of the July 19th, 2022 regular City Council meeting and the July 19th, 2022 special City Council meeting. These minutes were provided for you in your packet. Are there any corrections? If not, then those minutes will stand as approved, as submitted, and we will transition to the public hearing portion of our council meeting, which will be led by Clint Peters, the Director of Development Services.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider a resolution approving the following subdivision plat. Final plat and construction plans of the Hilltop Heights addition. By a vote of 8-0, the Plan Commission recommended that the subdivision plat and construction plans be approved.
Are there any questions for staff? We'll open a public hearing for comments. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Not, I'll close the public hearing and I'll ask for a motion.
I move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield. Yes. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Borderood.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes. That motion carries, and the next item is public hearing 2022-505.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, providing that the comprehensive plan be amended to change the land use designation from open space to mixed-use core on properties described as lots 5 and 6 and 7A, Block 1 of University Parks Edition, City Commons lot, all river frontage, and 1.257 acres of abandoned road. Block 1, 2, 3, and Z, 9.8432 acres. S&E 0.3188 acres of lease tract. Property ID 318569, City Commons. Part of Lot 3, 0.3188 acres. River frontage, formerly a lease tract, parent property ID of 168436, LHI, and Lot C1, Block 4, Johnson subdivision known as 600, 650, and 700 South University Parks Drive, and located northwest of University Parks Drive and Interstate 35, providing that the Code of Ordinance of the City of Waco be amended by revising Section 28-247 and Chapter 28 zoning in said code, providing that the zoning map shall be changed so that certain property described above shall be changed from PUD and C2 to O2 district classification, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding determined the meeting in which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. By a vote of 9-0, the Plan Commission recommended approval of the land use designation change based on the following findings. 1, the public infrastructure is adequate to provide for zoning districts allowed in the proposed mixed-use core land use designation. 2, there is mixed-use core land use designation on a portion of the subject property in the vicinity of the subject property. And 3, the property is located at the intersection of 2 major streets, which is I-35 and University Parks. Plan Commission also recommended approval of zone change based on the following findings. 1, proposed zoning is in conformance with the land use component of the comprehensive plan as revised in the Imagine Waco plan for Greater Downtown and the Brazos River Corridor District. 2, the public infrastructure is adequate to provide for uses allowed in O2 zoning. 3, the property meets all the area and width requirements for O2 zoning. and 402 zoning is the dominant zoning for Baylor University uses.
Are there any questions for staff? I will open a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? If not, I'll close the public hearing and I ask for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Fairfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Palmer. Porterud.
I believe I've got an affidavit on this one.
Yes, sir. Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. And the next item to consider is public hearing 2022-506.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, amending the concept plan of a plan unit development known as the Brazos Promenade PUD, located along both sides of South University Parks Drive between Jackson Avenue and Clay Avenue, to one, add approximately 2.404 acres, more or less, to the PUD out of a property described as lots 5 through 6, Block 1 in the University Parks addition. 6.554 acres, formerly Brazos Place condo, known as 522 South University Parks Drive, with a property ID of 194021. 2, rezone the approximately 2.04 acres of the property from C2 to PUD. And 3, otherwise revise the concept plan of the PUD to allow additional mixed uses within the added portion of the property. The areas referenced in the existing zoning of the PUD being described as lots 1 through 4, 11A, 11B, 12B, 13B, 14B, 15, and 16, Block 24 of the original city, Taylor and Bill, and 0.1607 acres of abandoned alley, which is a total of 2.5312 acres. Land account improvement only for on property ID 410276, known as 400 South 2nd Street land, with a property ID of 184353. City Commons lots, all river frontage, and 1.257 acres of abandoned road. Block 1, 2, 3, and Z acres, 10.982. S&E 0.3188 acres of lease tract. The property ID of 3185569, known as 400 South University Parks Drive. 500, property ID 168436, Lot 15, Block 23, original city, Taylor Bill edition. 1.2052 acres, known as 414 South University Parks Drive, which is rear land. Property ID of 184351. And Lot 1, 2, and 0.023 acres of abandoned alley, Block 24, original city, Taylor Bill edition. 0.401 acres, known as 400 South 2nd Street, property ID 184353. Lot 1, Block 32, original city, Taylor Bill edition. 0.1894 acres, known as 503 River Street, with a property ID of 184391. And lots 2 through 7, Block 33, the original city, Taylor and Beal, known as River Street, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding determined the meeting which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. By a vote of 9-0, Planning Commission recommended approval of the amendment to the PUD based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. The findings of the proposed PUD is consistent with the land use component of the comprehensive plan. The purposes of Chapter 28 zoning of Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, Texas, and the plan unit development regulations. 2, proposed PUD is keeping with the purpose and intent of the PUD ordinance by providing a high level of amenities and design standards while allowing flexibility in the use and development of the land. The one condition is that the final PUD plan must meet all development standards consistent with the concept PUD plan and the site requirements of the Plan Review Committee, but including but not limited to the following: site grading and drainage, signage regulations, parking, site coverage, access circulation, landscaping, refuse location and access, and fire protection location and access. And that the property shall be platted in accordance with the subdivision ordinance prior to issuance of building permits. We do have a note that the University Parks Drive and Clay Avenue street design and streetscape may be altered by the City of Waco as part of its right-of-way projects. The Planning Commission also did recommend approval of rezoning from C2 to PUD based on the following findings. 1, proposed PUD is consistent with the land use component of the comprehensive plan. The purposes of Chapter 28 zoning of Code of Ordinances and the plan unit development regulations. And 2, the proposed PUD is keeping with the purpose and intent of the PUD ordinance by providing a high level of urban amenities and design standards while allowing flexibility in the use and development of the land. We do have a requested amendment to the PUD document that was presented by Paris at the work session, and that would be on Exhibit 2 which is page 8, that on Block C, that the stories be changed from a maximum of 4 stories to 5 stories and 70 feet to 80 feet. And staff does recommend that alteration to the PUD document.
City Attorney, when we make them to grant this, do we have to add the amendment that he just said, that adding it to 5 stories rather than?
To the motion. Do
To
we
the
have to make
motion,
it to the
yes,
motion?
to the motion.
We just move as amended, right?
Yeah, move as amended.
Okay.
Okay, because in here in the motion, it's not on here.
Yes, I think moving as amended by staff, I think is a fair way to say it.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? We'll open a public hearing for comments. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Now we'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask for a motion.
Move for approval on first reading as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? Please, public counsel.
Field,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Palmer. Board of Rules disqualified. Holmes,
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. I do want to just pause and say that is we just passed 2 great motions to take one big step forward on our riverfront development, something we talked about earlier, as a generational opportunity, something that this city has been working towards, and seeing the future Riverwalk components, the development thereon is really exciting. So I really do want to just celebrate what our council was able to just do.
Thank you, Mayor.
The next item is public hearing 2022-507.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a continuance of a public hearing to consider a resolution granting a special permit to Unbound Waco for a transitional shelter 1 in R1B zoning district on property described as Lot 4, Block 16 of the Cohen Addition, known as 2108 Fort. By a vote of 8-0, Plan Commission recommended approval of the special permit based on the following findings. 1, that the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the purposes and intent of Chapter 28 zoning of the Code of Ordinances in the City of Waco. 2, that the proposed use is compatible with the appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it is located. 3, that the proposed use is not more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics than any use permitted in the zoning district without the grant of special exception. And 4, that available community facilities and services, including the road system providing access to the proposed use, are adequate for the proposed use.
Are there any questions for staff? I will open a public hearing for comment, and I have a few cards here. The first card I have is Ebony Jennings. And the second card I have is Allie Shepard. Sure, I can go. That's great. First card I have is Allie Shepard, followed by Ebony Jennings.
Good evening. My name is Allie Shepard. I'm a licensed master social worker and a licensed chemical dependency counselor, and I'm also the director of the Survivor Advocacy Program for Unbound Now Waco. Unbound Now has 5 locations across the state of Texas, and collectively our offices served approximately 435 victims of human trafficking last year. I currently supervise 3 advocates for the Waco office, a licensed Bachelor of Social Work, an MSW in the process of obtaining her license, and an advocate with relevant life experience who is invaluable to our team. Unbound Now's Survivor Advocacy Program is committed to providing survivor-centered, trauma-informed care and assistance to survivors of human trafficking, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. Our advocates not only provide emotional and moral support to survivors, but comprehensive case management services, including crisis response and intervention, criminal justice system-based advocacy, financial assistance, social service advocacy, transportation services, and housing and shelter advocacy, in addition to referrals to legal services, mental health and substance use treatment, residential programs, medical care, and other health-related services. Before engaging with the survivors we serve, all Unbound Now advocates must pass background checks and receive approximately 48 hours worth of extensive pre-service training. In their first year of employment, advocates also complete 30 hours of training in trust-based relational intervention, 14 hours of training in motivational interviewing, and 3 hours of training in the use of the commercial sexual exploitation identification tool. On an annual basis, Unbound Now advocates complete an additional 8 hours of training in motivational interviewing and stages of change, abuse risk management trainings through Presidium Academy, additional training in trust-based relational intervention, as well as ongoing trainings in a variety of topics such as safety planning, trauma-informed care, and working with commercially sexually exploited youth. Advocates also receive biweekly supervision with their supervisor, that would be me, attend weekly staff meetings, weekly advocacy meetings, and monthly resilience groups with advocates from other Unbound Now offices in order to promote their well-being and mitigate vicarious trauma. I share this information with you, Council, because not only will Unbound Now Waco's advocacy team work in close collaboration with the Reagan staff to coordinate services for residents and their care, but because facilities such as the Reagan are crucial to advocacy organizations such as ours. Because of the need for safe, secure shelter and housing for minor survivors of commercial sexual exploitation is becoming increasingly more challenging to locate and access safe, secure shelter for this specific population within our state. Currently, Unbound Now advocates must travel to meet with some survivors on our caseload at placements located several hours outside of our service areas, and have even had to relocate survivors to out-of-state placements because the need for shelter is so great. I ask the Council to grant Unbound Now Waco's request for a permit for transitional shelter to enable our advocacy program to more effectively serve the needs of the minor survivors we work with in our service area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Next, we have Ebony Jennings, and on deck, we have Rachel Hobbs.
Greetings. My name is Ebony Jennings. I serve with Unbound Now Waco as the House Director for the Reagan. At the Reagan, I serve alongside Ms. Hannah Murray, our Program Director, as well as Ms. Cheryl C. Whitney, who is our Licensed Child Care Administrator. Together, Hannah, Charles C., and I have been hard at work over the past several months gathering input from other residential placements like this across the state to develop a high-quality program, and that includes writing policies, procedures that lay the foundation for the Reagan to operate successfully as a trauma-informed residential placement to meet this specific need in our community. My own background is with DFPS as a conservatorship or foster care CPS caseworker for several years. During my time with CPS, I personally observed the critical challenge that our community faces with such a high need for trauma-informed residential placement options. Our program director, Ms. Hannah Murray, is a licensed master of social work. During the pursuit of her social work degree, she actually worked with Unbound for several years to complete research on the critical need for trauma-informed trafficking-specific shelters in the state, and she's been able to use that knowledge as we've gone through the development of our policies, programs, and procedures. Our administrator, Ms. Charles C. Whitney, is responsible for our oversight of our program, ensuring that we comply with all state, local standards for residential child care. She is a licensed professional counselor, and she comes from the Methodist Children's Home with 20-plus years of experience in residential child care, including several years as their child care administrator. The Reagan is a program of Unbound Now, and Unbound Now is a well-established, well-respected organization in this community. Unbound Now is the leaders of the Heart of Texas Human Trafficking Task Force, and we've been able to develop sincere and supportive relationships with several agencies and organizations to join hands in this fight to end human trafficking in our communities. You just heard from Ms. Allie Shepard. She's the director of Unbound Now Waco's Survivor Advocacy Program, and I want to assure you that the Reagan is an extension of that Survivor Advocacy Program. We will provide the same services, provide the same training. Our staff have to go through the same background checks. We want to provide comprehensive, holistic support for survivors of human trafficking. Our hope tonight, Council, is that you will vote in favor of the Reagan and allow us the opportunity to serve our community at a higher capacity through this residential placement. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Rachel Hobbs, and on deck, we have Miss Sarah Aguirre.
Okay, good evening. It's good to see you guys tonight. I am more speaking on behalf of the board for Unbound Now, and in my capacity as a board member role. But my experience is to make sure these guys get to do all of that and all of that in our community and worldwide now, globally, sustainably, from a position of strength. My experience, I'm a CPA by trade. I say I'm a recovering CPA. But I also did extensive work in the nonprofit world when I joined the Waco Foundation, and that's where I first became aware of really why we have Unbound Now and what existed and what we want to try to put an end to with human trafficking. And that was from my experience with Waco Foundation for almost 10 years and working with the nonprofits and actually becoming more engaged. I had done board work for years. Being a CPA, when you join a board, of course, they all want you to serve as treasurer. And so I went from serving many boards to joining Waco Foundation and then being trained really well on what a strong board looks like in governance. And then was able to, actually I took a little hiatus as I joined the foundation and said, I think I'm retiring from board work for a little bit. And then it came out of retirement to help serve with Unbound, and just knowing that what I could bring to the table would absolutely help the organization from a position of just sustainability, looking at the work, making sure that we do the work well, that we do operate from a position of strength. I would say even from 10 years Unbound's experience, me joining the board, when I was able to join the board and looking at it going, Unbound has been able to do this really well from a financial responsibility, fiscally responsible, and doing the work really well, and just being able to see how it's rallied the community to really come and unify to end human trafficking. So from the board's perspective, I'm here just to speak it on behalf that we are committed to seeing it done well and seeing the organization succeed and seeing it done successfully to what we're trying to do, and doing it, I guess, with just excellence in every area and every program. So thank you for hearing from me. And that's it.
Thank you, Rachel. Next we have Sarah Guire, and on deck I have Abby Waters.
Hello, my name is Sarah Gary.
I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name.
No, it's okay. So I come before you guys on behalf of Unbound Now, Waco. I am a survivor of child exploitation during my adolescent years. And when I heard about the Reagan coming to Waco, it really made me so excited, because there are so many youth that are without a placement, a safe place to heal and get the tools that they need to move forward in their life. And now that I have overcome so many obstacles and tragedies and trauma, I have completed a transitional recovery home in the area, Grace House, so I'm a graduate of the program there. And I've seen the fruit of having a safe place and the place and the opportunity to heal. And I've been in Waco since I was 15, and this has been a city of refuge for me. I've found so much healing, and I believe that we have the potential to see healing happen and restoration happen on youth that come from hard places. And so I stand here with a master's in social work, sitting in for my licensing in a month, and I am now on staff with Unbound Austin as the director of early intervention, because I believe in the mission to see lives changed and healed. And we have an opportunity today to see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Abby Waters, and on deck I have Trey. Abby Waters, and on deck I have Trey Oakley.
To follow there, I'm just kidding. My name is Abby Waters. I currently reside in District 2. I'm omitting my address just for safety purposes. My pronouns are they, them, and ze, them. I actually just recently completed my Master of Social Work degree with a concentration in clinical social work and a focus in trauma-informed care. I currently work at the Chase House as the Hope Shelter case manager with Clare Center for Families with the Heart of Texas Behavioral Health Network. We specifically serve runaway and homeless youth ages 12 to 18 years old, and the Hope Shelter is specifically for human and sex trafficking victims and survivors. I have been able to work closely with consumers or clients or survivors, if you will, this whole past year, and coming in as an official person now, an official case manager. It's been difficult to I want to say, navigate the different social resources for survivors trying to get maybe identification, et cetera, once you come to shelter or a safe space and might not have, all you have is the clothing on your back. And specifically trying to survive, trying to find a place where you can actually feel safe and feel like a little bit of comfortability to even be able to begin healing from that trauma. So as a community member, two of the values that I see in the Reagan House, one is the trauma-informed care piece of that, as well as the community partnership. Unbound is doing a phenomenal job across the state, and specifically in Waco, and they have been a tremendous help for the Chase House and for myself as a new case manager in the city. And I am all for the Reagan House, but specifically as a human trafficking case manager doing emergency shelter, it's important to have residential transitional housing here in the city of Waco. Oftentimes we have to transition our clients to either Austin or Dallas, and having to navigate bigger cities like that is just not feasible when exiting our programs and services. So the Reagan House would be really beneficial for the Chase House in general as a community building opportunity, and just I'm here to support that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next we have Trey Oakley, followed by Cheryl Poohler.
Trey Oakley, President and CEO of Methodist Children's Home. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the countless hours that you put in for Waco and its citizens. And it is my privilege and opportunity to speak in support of the Reagan House. What a great addition this would be to our community. Methodist Children's Home has collaborated with Unbound in a number of ways since 2012. We've exchanged referrals, placements, shared tips along the way. And we believe that this is the next chapter in our relationship. In 2021, we began discussions about how we might assist Unbound in this vision. Our team was inspired by the work that they were talking about doing. As was just stated so well, this is a huge need. And I will tell you that we could open this house and through programs like Methodist Children's Home, and we could multiply those, and we're not scratching the surface of those who need us, but it has to start. And they're stepping forward. And I want you to know, as a community members, we are standing with them. We're already doing that. The education piece was a big thing that was talked about. Where were these young people going to attend school? So through our partnership with the University of Texas Charter System, who supports our charter school on our Waco campus, these young people will come onto our campus. They will be educated. Methodist Children's Home staff members, along with Reagan staff members, will work side by side to come up with the best decisions possible to help these young people get the tools that they will need through education to thrive in their many days to come. You've also heard lots of conversation about training. Methodist Children's Home, we are a TBRI ambassador program, that's trust-based relational intervention, through the Texas Christian University Institute for Child Development. There are only several of those in the entire world. And what we have pledged to our friends at Unbound and at the Reagan is that training that you need, you're going to receive it free of charge. It's our way to be able to be a part of this exciting adventure that's moving forward. I will just tell you that along with our mission at Methodist Children's Home to serve 10,000 children, youth, and families from across Texas and New Mexico, we see right here, this is our time to do more than just talk about being the solution. We can no longer keep flipping the page and keep turning the channel. This group is already doing that. They're standing with those who need them the most, and we're right there with them. It is my privilege and my honor to say that Methodist Children's Home will be here tonight and in the days to come. And I appreciate the council and the members of our community who will go with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Cheryl Poohler, followed by Barbara Wright.
Good evening. I'm going to read off the script if that's okay with you all. Mayor Meek and City Council members, thank you for hearing our request this evening. My name is Dr. Cheryl Poohler. I previously worked at Waco ISD as the homeless foster liaison for 7 years. Currently, I'm a professor in the Diana R. Garland School of Social Work at Baylor University. I'm here to briefly share my personal and professional reasons for supporting the Reagan, a short-term specialized residential placement for girls aged 12 to 17 who have been sexually exploited. My collaboration with Susan Peters began with Unbound over 10 years ago. Susan generously served as a founding board member for The Cove, which I founded, and I served on her steering committee with the coalition since they started. So we have a long history of working well together. These organizations strive to provide sustainable solutions for homeless youth and youth at risk of being trafficked in our community. Preliminary research has shown that nearly 50 to 90% of child trafficking victims have been involved in the foster care system at some point. Additionally, research from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children indicates that 60% of runaways who became subject to human trafficking and ran away from the custody of the state welfare agency that they were in their care. In addition, LGBTQ+ youth are overrepresented in the foster care system, meaning there's a higher percentage of these youth in the system than there is in the overall population. Often, LGBTQ+ children enter the system because of family rejection and abuse due to their gender and sexual identity. Once in the system, they're at a higher risk for physical, verbal, and sexual abuse, which makes them an easy target for traffickers. Nearly 34% of youth reported that leaving home, either they ran away or were kicked out, that preceded their first trafficking experience. Human trafficking is a clear and present danger for youth in the foster care system. The Reagan is a needed resource that will provide another link in the system of care that's necessary for addressing the unique and challenging needs of system-involved girls. Their trauma-informed approach to care is necessary because research has shown that trafficked youth do not fare well in a traditional youth shelter setting. While I so desperately wish that it was unnecessary for all of us to be here tonight talking about homeless and trafficked youth, Waco cannot look away from a problem that does exist in this community. Waco will be fortunate to have the Reagan as a resource for young female victims of sexual exploitation. Many communities lack the citizen-led leadership that's necessary to create and implement resources for trafficking victims. Susan has been very successful with that and has a proven track record. Waco is beyond fortunate to have this opportunity to partner with Susan Peters at Unbound as they expand their research to the most vulnerable youth in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poohler. Next up, we have Barbara Wright, followed by Sheriff McNamara.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Wright, and I'm the Executive Director at the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children. And I'm here to speak in support of the Reagan House and Unbound's ability to oversee this project. Unbound is a respected organization with a well-trained staff and a track record of excellence who can deliver on meeting this critical need. Unbound is a valued partner of the Advocacy Center. We had the opportunity of joining Susan and Unbound and Judge Gary Coley to help form or to begin the formation of the Human Trafficking Coalition here in Waco, or in McLennan County. We have worked beside them in many ways. Advocacy Center offers counseling and care coordination in addition to the services that Unbound offers to those who have been trafficked. So we have worked tirelessly with them, but especially in the battle against human trafficking. I have no doubt that the Reagan House will be a success under the supervision of Unbound. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Next, we have Sheriff McNamara, followed by Detective Scaramucci.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman, thank you all very much. Parnell McNamara, McLennan County Sheriff. When we got involved in the human trafficking effort back in 2014, we had no idea what we would get into. We had no idea how really down and dirty human trafficking is. It is a scourge not only in our community, statewide, all across the United States, and worldwide. In 2014, Detective Scaramucci, who you'll hear from shortly, came to me with an idea that we take a look into human trafficking. I said, absolutely. So we got involved. Shortly thereafter, we teamed up with Ms. Susan Peters and Unbound. From a law enforcement standpoint, we can do part of the battle. We can fight half of it. We can rescue these very, very unfortunate victims of these low-down pimps and traffickers, but we can't save them. Only Unbound can save them. We can go and arrest the traffickers. We can pull the women out of the massage parlors. We can get them away from the pimps, wherever they are. But we, at that point, we turn them over to Susan Peters and Unbound to try to get them a better life, get them out of the life that they're involved in. Most of them have no support system. Most of them really have no family that they can go back to. Luckily, 2 girls that we rescued a couple of weeks ago had family to go to. If they hadn't, they would have gone straight to Unbound. Unbound is recognized worldwide. So is the Human Trafficking Unit. We and Unbound have been requested to train police officers all across Europe and Asia. Our unit, Joe Scaramucci and Susan Peters with Unbound, have been in Mongolia training Mongolian police, what to look for, how to rescue these women. Don't arrest the women, arrest the traffickers. Don't victimize the women twice. They've been in Poland, they've been in Moldova in the last 3 months, and they've gone across the border into Ukraine. I strongly request, please, take a long, hard look at the Reagan House as a place of transitional shelter for these unfortunate victims of this worldwide scourge that we're dealing with. Some of these things that we have seen with these women, the way they've been treated, mistreated, physically and emotionally, if I get to thinking about it, it's hard for me to sleep at night. Please consider the Reagan House as a transitional shelter. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Next we have followed by Sandra Williams.
Good evening. My name is Joe Scaramucci. I'm a detective at the Sheriff's Office here in Waco. In 2014, Sheriff McNamara authorized the creation of our Human Trafficking Unit. Since then, we've been working all over the world, from West Coast to East Coast throughout the United States. And I can tell you that we've been working alongside our partners with Unbound, specifically Susan Peters. I've had the privilege to serve on their advisory board and play a very, very small role in supporting their important mission. I've had the honor of working alongside all Unbound staff, particularly my friend, Susan Peters. I can tell you from my experience that organization is second to absolutely none. Nationally, for law enforcement, we have one common theme when we come across trafficking victims. We have nowhere to take them. When we look at what's going on in our DFPS system, they're taxed. They're oftentimes taking these children back to their offices, and that's where they're sleeping. Another option for us is to personally rent hotel rooms where these children can stay. The problem we have with that is that these children are being sexually exploited in these same hotel rooms, which leads to trauma responses that are causing them to run. A final option is to take them into custody, put them in handcuffs, and take them to juvenile detention. We have to think on that. We're taking victims of crime, putting them in handcuffs, and securing them in detention. There are only a couple of concerns that I can even fathom going on with the Reagan. One would be the concern that traffickers will come looking for their victims. What I can tell you, and what some of you may not know, is there are actual laws that are followed by traffickers. Law number 3 is don't chase them, replace them. They are not going to come looking for their victims at the Reagan. Another could be that the children are going to come and bring crime to the streets. We also have to understand these children are not criminals. This is not a halfway house. It's a place for children to recover. To help counter these concerns, the Reagan has gone through several security assessments completed to ensure that the staff and the people in their care are safe. It's completed the initial DFPS inspections, likely will pass their finals, and it has an amazing staff that's dedicated to keeping our children safe. As members of this council, as members of law enforcement, Unbound, and members of our community, it is yours and our responsibility to keep our children safe. While we want to protect our children from hardship, that is impossible. Instead, we may be called to lead by walking them gracefully through the valley and guiding them through the shadows. Approving this permit to operate a transitional shelter in an R1B zone would affirm your leadership as councilman, and it would allow these children to go, with God's help, and walk through their valleys. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective. And I do appreciate everyone's applause, and there's a lot of reasons to applaud some of these things, but one of our rules is to not applause, so I'm going to ask to withhold applause going forward. Next, we have Sandra Williams, followed by Jason Ramos.
Thank you, Council. I had so much written down to speak about, but I'm going to go from the heart and off the top of my head. Because on my way here, I received, well, let me say who I am. Of course, it's Sandra Williams. I work with hundreds of children throughout the years that has been victims of sexual exploitation, abuse, neglect, and it is a very traumatic experience, not just for those children, but for the workers as well. Okay, so right before I came here, I received a call that there's a placement needed for a 9-year-old. And it's not the 9-year-old's fault that they have been sexually victimized. Mm-hmm. Now, this baby is needing a placement because she doesn't know how to deal with what has happened to her, trauma. I am so thankful for Ms. Peters, Unbound, and their staff, because what they have done is they have come in and they've trained us, people like me, how to work with these young children and youth, how to look for signs of whether what to look for as far as dealing with why they behave the way they do, why the outbursts, why the cries. They have also taken it a step further to come in and also do volunteer services with our children to make sure that they too are informed about sex trafficking and what to do and how to report it if they ever need it. So what I am saying and what I am asking on tonight is, if you would please consider allowing Reagan House to open their doors so that they can provide a safe haven for these individuals that need it. I know that because I've worked under the supervision of Ms. Peters and her wonderful trained staff, that their program will assure that these children have a safe place, not worried about being touched, not worried about being hurt. Let's send a message that they have somewhere to go. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Jason Ramos.
Yeah, good evening, Council. It's a joy to see y'all. Gotten to work with y'all over the years on different things, but I'm here today. First off, I want to preface that I'm a commissioner on the Plan Commission, and when this application came through, I did abstain and from conversation or voting. But tonight I'm here as a resident of District 4. I live about 2 blocks from this property right here, and also as someone who directed 2 residential homes right here in this very neighborhood in the past. I oversaw Mercy House for close to 10 years. I helped lead it, where we were able to serve hundreds of men coming through, see lives restored, families restored, and then as well as our Grace House, our women's home, where we see a lot of women get their lives restored, just whole families getting their lives back. And so I work for Antioch Community Church. I'm a pastor on staff there. Oversee our Impact Waco department that has worked closely with Unbound over the years to serve our community. But I'm also a relative of an aunt who lost her life in human trafficking, and also have a relative that serves an advocate for human trafficking. So I'm here to support this. I'm here to say, hey, this is our community. These are our kids. You know, my heart beats for that. You know, to see lives restored, but also living in the same neighborhood where we can also offer this to kids that are needing it. So I'm in support of this. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Those are all the cards I have for this item. Is there anyone else here to speak on this matter? If not, then I will close the public hearing and I'll ask for a motion.
Approval. Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield. Yes. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Palmer. Aye. Borderoux.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you to all those who came tonight for this. Next, we have our consent agenda, And the consent agenda consists of resolutions 2022-510 through,
Mayor, I believe it's 508, right?
I apologize, 508 through 532 with the exceptions of 510, 511, 515, 517, and 518. So the first one of those is resolutions 2022-510. Is there a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez? Palmer? Border Rules disqualified. Holmes? Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. The next resolution is 2022-511. Is there a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Yes. Rodriguez? Palmer? Border Rules disqualified. Holmes? Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. The next one I have a card for, and that is resolution 2022-517, and I have a card from Dr. Alan Northcutt.
Mayor, if I may, can we do 515 first?
Oh, I apologize. Yep, the next one is resolution 2022-515. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez? Palmer? Border Rules disqualified. Holmes?
Aye.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And Dr. Northcutt.
Alan Northcutt, and you do have a handout that has details for adding to my comments. At the last council session, I think we confirmed that majority of council members do recognize the climate crisis from their statements, but beyond statements, the council must take action on climate, and I think we have to examine every agenda item through the lens of climate science because of the dire nature of this crisis. Now, this resolution calls for buying an HVAC systems with the refrigerant R410A. And we recall, as we talked about before, refrigerants in HVAC systems have a very high global warming effect. And in fact, management of refrigerants has been calculated to be the most powerful single action on climate that we can take between now and 2050. And there's a global agreement on this particular issue. Now, the handout claims that the refrigerant R410A has a lower GWP, which is global warming potential, than the old one, which is R22. But this is inaccurate. Actually, R22 has a GWP of 1810. That means it's 1,810 times stronger than CO2, 1810. Now, R410A, which is the proposed one, is a larger number. It's 2087. So it actually has more global warming effect than the old refrigerant. So R410A is worse for the climate. In fact, the EPA is calling for banning this refrigerant as of January 2024. So I would call on the council to reconsider this, since this refrigerant will be banned in 1 year. It may be thought that it may become more difficult to obtain and more expensive because of this. And, you know, it will worsen climate change for about 15 years or the life of this system. In fact, Carrier and some of the other HVAC companies have already selected new refrigerants such as R454B, which have a much lower global warming potential. In fact, it's about 1/4 that of 410A. So I think buying a system now with refrigerant that's bad for the climate and will soon be actually banned from use is not a good choice. I'm not certain if at this very moment we can get an HVAC system with like a 454B, which has a lower potential, but certainly this will be available very soon, considering the fact that 410A is going to be banned as of January 2024. So there will be other options very soon, if not right now, that would have a lower global warming potential. And I think considering how important this is, the council should consider looking at other choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Northcutt. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Please vote council.
Field.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Porterud.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. And we'll move to Resolution 2022-518. I do have a card, and that is Ms. Teresa Porter.
Howdy, y'all. Teresa Porter, Heart of Texas Electric Vehicle Association. Madam Secretary, did you email everybody the attachments? Awesome. So I was looking over Resolution 518 and just wanted to throw a couple of comments out there. Of course, y'all love data, the run-on-bus report. We could be looking at 85% more efficient if we choose electric instead. And page 47 of the pretty picture handout with lots of trucks in it shows the Motive Epic 459. That one is Ameripride, aka Aramark, in that photograph. Just so y'all know, it wasn't mentioned at all in the resolution paper. This truck chassis is vehicle to grid capable. So when it's not in use, it could be plugged in, helping the grid. And I don't know exactly when your peak tourism period is. It seems like it's people-y all year round in this city. But y'all are really gonna buy a gas vehicle to park in a crowd and idle a noisy generator? Come on. That's not good, especially not for little babies in strollers and dogs on leashes and kids running around. You know, we got to think about the public health when we factor in costs, not just look at the purchase price. You know, we don't need a bunch of kids in the future running around with asthma, especially if they're on the indigent health care, you know. That can get really expensive for taxpayers. So the purchase price for the city does not include gas, oil changes, spark plugs, timing belts, things that your gasoline vehicle is going to need. And they mentioned that the companies have insufficient production history, but Aramark started with 10 of these in 2017, and they've bought a bunch more since then. They're not in the habit of buying junk. And Bimbo Bakeries has 120 something of these now, and they've been using them in their fleet since 2019. Again, not in the habit of buying junk. Motive Chassis is a good company, and they're owned by the Rev Group. And of course your EVs are not going to be in stock because the demand is extremely high. Got to get on the waiting list just like everybody else. And I know you guys didn't just come up with this truck purchase overnight. Y'all been thinking about this for a while. Y'all could have been on the wait list already. And as far as repairs on the vehicle, electric vehicles are stupidly simple, y'all. No spark plugs, no oil changes. Your fleet guys can do brakes and tire rotations, right? Buy electric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
My only impact is that we are, when I say we, I mean staff is really doing a strong job, far more than we've ever done on seeing to advancing what our fleet looks like from a sustainable perspective. And I need everyone to know that. I need you all to know that while we can't turn this ship quickly, we are turning the ship. And I think that's one of the things that our citizens need to be aware. Ms. Porter is absolutely right in that when we, to get on wait lists, because I believe we are on several. Is that not right, City Manager? And those are the things that we're working to, because we understand what our footprint is and does and will be for our future. That does not negate the needs that we have today. And so those needs have to be addressed today. But as we can phase out, we do, and are committed to doing so. Not necessarily, not just as a council, but as a budget, because those things have been indicated in the 1,400-page budget that we got presented over the weekend. So I need you to know we hear you.
Any other discussion? Please poll the council. Sorry, we've closed the public hearing on this side. Or there's we've moved on from comment on this side. Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Palmer? Borderood? Yes. Holmes?
Aye.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. The consent agenda consists of resolutions 2022-508 through 532, with the exceptions of 510, 511, 515, 517, and 518. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Borderood?
Yes.
Holmes? Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And the next item on the agenda is ordinance 2022-533.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 1991-37 and amending Division 2 Building Standards Commission of Article 5 Minimum Building Standards Code of Chapter 6 Buildings and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, Texas pertaining to the Building Standards Commission membership, appointment, and other matters related thereto, providing a severability clause, providing a savings clause, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for an effective date, and finally determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed, open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on second reading.
Second?
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield? Rodriguez?
Aye.
Palmer? Borderood? Holmes? Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we'll move to ordinance 2022-534.
An ordinance providing for the extension of certain boundary limits of the City of Waco, Texas, and annexation of certain territory consisting of approximately 77.29 acres of land, more or less, the 77.29 acre tract, described as a 1 acre tract of land, more or less, out of I-Pit survey in McLennan County, Texas, being all of the Kenneth R. Byrd recorded in volume 1620, page 744 of the deed records in McLennan County, and 2 76.29 acres of land out of the Alfred Willingham survey, abstract number 897, and the Isaac Pitt survey, abstract number 713, in McLennan County, Texas, being a part of the remainder of that called 136.20 acre tract described in a homestead affidavit to W. Paul Ellis and Doris D. Ellis, recorded in volume 1415, page 704 of the deed records of McLennan County, Texas, and being the remainder of that called 16.3 acre tract described in the deed to Lee Ellis, recorded in volume 338, page 330 of the deed records of McLennan County, Texas, and being located along the west side of Harris Creek Road near the intersection of Church Road, and further located within Waco's extraterritorial jurisdiction, which said territory lies adjacent to and adjoins the present boundary limits of the City of Waco, Texas, providing for the designation of suburban residential as the comprehensive plan land use designation, and the designation of R1A single-family residence district zoning, assigning the annexed territory to City Council District 5, amending City of Waco Precinct 63 to include the annexed territory, directing that the City Precinct District map be revised to reflect that change, and providing voting location at any of the City of Waco voting centers, providing that said territory bears pro rata part of taxes and entitling inhabitants to all rights and privileges of citizens, and binding inhabitants to acts and laws of the city, adopting a service plan, providing a severability clause, providing for publishing of the ordinance, providing for penalties, and finally determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on second reading?
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Holmes?
Aye.
Meek?
Yes, that motion
Borderood?
Oh,
Sorry.
Yes.
sorry. That motion carries. The next The next ordinance is 2022-535.
An ordinance amending Section 28-930 in Chapter 28 zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, Texas, for the purpose of removing the requirement for a permit and fees associated with holding garage or yard sales, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Borderood?
Yes.
Holmes? Meek?
Yes. Motion carries, and the next item is ordinance 2022-536.
An ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, providing that the comprehensive plan be amended to change the land use designation from suburban residential to mixed-use flex on property described as 1.60 acres of land, Carlos Ocampo Grant, City of Waco, McLennan County, Texas, being part of the residue of that 4.3 acres of land described in a deed to Wazir A. Denani, recorded in Volume 183, page 28 of the Official Public Records of McLennan County, Texas, known as 4200 South University Parks Drive, providing that the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco be amended by revising Section 28-247 and Chapter 28 zoning of said code, providing the zoning map shall be changed, that the property described above shall be changed from R1B to C1 district classification, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 5-1 council vote on first reading on July 19th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Second reading.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
No.
Palmer? Borderood?
Yes.
Holmes?
Aye.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries, and the next item is ordinance 2022-537.
An ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, providing the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco be amended by revising Section 28-247 and Chapter 28 zoning of said code. Providing the zoning map shall be changed so that certain property described as a 9.23 acres, more or less, out of the T.J. Chambers grant, McLennan County, Texas, save and accept 0.4015 acres out of the T.J. Chambers grant, McLennan County, Texas, are conveyed to the City of Waco in Volume 1815, page 679 of the deed records of McLennan County, Texas, known as 1600 Gurley Lane, shall be changed from R1B district classification and become and be designated to R3C district classification, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on second reading.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield? Yes. Rodriguez? Palmer?
Aye.
Borderood?
Yes.
Holmes?
Aye.
Meek?
Carries, and we'll move to ordinance 2022-539. 538, apologies.
Utility easements located near Creekview Drive between South New Road and Interstate 35, and further described as number 1, a tractor parcel containing 0.6085 an acre or 26,508 square feet of land situated in the Thomas Jefferson Chambers 11 League Grant. Abstract number 7, McLennan County, Texas, being out of a called 142.379 acre tract described in deed to Waco Johnson 143 Venture LLC, recorded under McLennan County Clerk's file number 2014-01066, and Lot 1, Block 1, Cottonwood Creek Marketplace, recorded under plat number 2021-007944, McLennan County Map Records, and number 2, a tractor parcel containing 1.140 acres or 49,639 square feet of land situated in the Thomas Jefferson Chambers 11 League Grant. Abstract number 7, McLennan County, Texas, being out of a called 142.379 acre tract described in the deed to Waco Johnson 143 LLC, recorded under MCCF number 2014-018066 and lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Cottonwood Creek Marketplace, recorded under plat number 2021-00794, MCMR, finding no duty to maintain, authorizing the city manager to execute quitclaim deeds, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved on a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19, 2022.
Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval on second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Palmer? Borderood,
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries, and we'll move to ordinance 2022-539.
An ordinance abandoning a general utility easement described as a 0.552 acre general utility easement tract in the city of Waco, McLennan County, Texas, being out of Lot 3, Block 2, Providence Hospital Addition, according to the plat thereof recorded in the McLennan County Clerk's document 2001-007308 of the official public records of McLennan County, Texas, and being all of the called 0.552 acre general utility easement retained by the city of Waco, ordinance number 1981-46, recorded in volume 1392, page 173 of the deed records of McLennan County, Texas, finding no duty to maintain, authorizing the city manager to execute quitclaim deeds, providing a severability clause, and finally determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez. Palmer. Borderood,
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries, and we'll move to ordinance 2022-540.
An ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, providing the comprehensive plan be amended to change the land use designation from industrial to office industrial flex on property described as 23 acres of land, being all of that tract of land in McLennan County, Texas, out of the Carlos Ocampo survey, abstract number 32, and being part of that called 215.88 acres of land described in a deed to Mercer Macmillan LLC, as recorded in McLennan County Clerk's document 2021-046-499 of the official public records of McLennan County, Texas. Property ID 138695, and located between Bagby Avenue and Interstate Highway 35, southeast of the intersection of Gateway Boulevard and Bagby Avenue. Providing the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco be amended by revising Section 28-247 and Chapter 28 zoning of said code. Providing the zoning map shall be changed, that the property described above shall be changed from M2 to O2 district classification. Providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on July 19, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Borderood,
Yes.
Holmes. Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. We'll move to ordinance 2022-541.
An ordinance granting to Encore Electric Delivery Company LLC, its successors and assigns, an electric power franchise to use the present and future streets, alleys, highways, public utility easements, public ways, and public property of the City of Waco, Texas, providing for compensation therefore, providing for an effective date and a term of said franchise, providing for written acceptance of this franchise, providing for the repeal of all existing franchise ordinances to Encore Electric Delivery Company LLC, its predecessors and assigns, and finding the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public. This ordinance was approved by a 5-0 council vote on first reading on June 21st, 2022, and by a 6-0 council vote on July 5th, 2022. It comes to you today on the third and final reading.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval on third and final reading.
Second.
Might need 2 seconds.
Half second.
Council.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Borderood,
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. And now we'll move to the hearing of visitors portion of the agenda. I want everyone in overflow rooms to please listen. This is very important. During the hearing of visitors section of the agenda, we provide an opportunity for the public to present concerns or address issues that are not matters for consideration listed on the agenda. Council is unable to conduct discussion but will listen, ask staff to look into concerns, and provide follow-up. Please provide registration information so that staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation, and staff will distribute those to council. If you're unable to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. For any person addressing the council through the use of a translator, the speaking time will be doubled to accommodate the translation services. While public discourse is very important to council, we must maintain order in the meetings so that all persons may be heard and city business may be conducted. So, if directed by me, the Sergeant of Arms shall remove anyone from the council meeting who, while addressing the city council or while attending the city council meeting, makes personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, becomes boisterous, or makes unauthorized remarks from the audience, claps hands, stomps feet, whistles, yells, or makes similar demonstrations. I know that some people might want to do that, but since I've been on council, these have been the rules, and it has worked really well for us to be able to conduct business in a civil manner. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We've had a great meeting, being presented with an incredible budget and moving forward with our amazing riverfront development. And if you missed that part of the meeting, I would encourage you to learn about those items. Looking at the cards, it looks like we have a lot of folks here to speak regarding a resolution that 2 other cities have passed called the Guarding the Right to Abortion Care for Everyone Act. And I want to be clear about a couple of things. First, this matter is not on tonight's city council agenda to discuss or vote on this resolution. Per Texas law, for a quorum of city council to vote or discuss any issue, said issue must be posted on an agenda several days before the vote or discussion. So, tonight, our council will not be able to engage, discuss, or comment on the issue of said resolution at all whatsoever. The resolution is not scheduled to be on any future agenda at this time, and I don't know if it will be on a future agenda. And that could always change. And if it does, the entire community would have notice because it would be posted on a public agenda in advance of any discussion, vote, or action. And anyone would be able to speak on that item before a vote was cast, again, if it ever became on an agenda. Everyone is welcome to stay and speak at our hearing of visitors, but I want to be clear that this item is not on the agenda tonight. Again, council will not be able to speak on this matter, nor is acting on this matter tonight. I want to start tonight's meeting, public hearing, with one of my favorite things about Waco. And since I've been on council, I've seen Wacoans embrace a rich history of humility, kindness, compassion, patience, peace, thankfulness, and unity. I've regularly seen people who radically disagree on issues work together to find common ground, and when they do disagree, maintain sincere kindness towards one another. This is Waco's culture, and we're better for it because we can do more with it. Some people are here to talk about a highly emotional issue. It's very complex, and we're going to be respectful tonight about the issue, and we're not going to make it about people. I've used the analogy many times that everyone in this town is on the same team. And this council sees themselves as a team, and I see every resident in this community as a member of the team. And I don't want anyone at this public hearing talking negatively about any of my team members tonight. We can be here to talk about issues, but I'm not going to tolerate anyone being negative about individuals or making personal and pertinent remarks. That has always been the rule of our public hearings. As I mentioned a few moments ago, people can always defer their time to another and have people stand with them when they come to speak. We welcome free and open dialogue here tonight, and everyone is certainly allowed and welcome to speak, but given the number of folks here, I would ask us to all be judicious with our time. I have no doubt that even though this council will not be participating in the discussions tonight, those here will demonstrate this culture of decency and teamwork that I've referenced. I'm committed to preserving this culture as I am to anything. Again, if you are here to speak and have not filled out a card, please do so. Our plan tonight is I'm going to call out 5 cards. They will come in and file along this side wall for speaking, and then when the 4th person is done speaking, I will call the next 5 people to file in. We have more cards than I've ever seen since I've been on council. And I don't have a particular order for any of this. So the first 5 I have is, and I might mispronounce names, is Pamela McElhaney, Caroline Wilkerson, Carol Scott, Patricia Dungan, and Peter Kolb. So Pamela McElhaney, Caroline Wilkinson, Carol Scott, Patricia Dungan, and Peter Kolb. Please file along this wall over here.
Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor. Absolutely.
We have someone, can we have a microphone brought to Ms.
McElhaney.
Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank the City Council for all your service. We have a great city and a wonderful place to live. And I know that your service to our community comes with great sacrifice and commitment to all of our well-being, and I thank you. I, too, have a high value on providing the most vulnerable with opportunities for success. My personal perspective is from a different lens. I became a quadriplegic from an accident at the age of 18. I had an academic scholarship to TCU and a future that was all mapped out that soon dissolved. My parents were told I'd be a vegetable and lack quality of life. Spending 10 months in the hospital and rehab, I returned home with quite a different lifestyle. I'm very thankful for family, friends, medical care, and a strong faith that rallied to me a new pathway. I went on to birth 3 children, adopt another child, all get married. I was married first, but that matters. All of my children are productive citizens. I went back to school when my children were grown and got a bachelor's and a master's degree in social work, and I maintain a positive lifestyle from a confines of a wheelchair. I'm now 67 years young, and the one lesson I've learned is that no one has the ability to disregard any life as irrelevant. While we agree on most issues, I'm sure, concerning social justice, I question any stance on the dignity and worth of a person and the importance of relationships that includes abortion. Everyone created in the image of God with a unique DNA has value. Choice is imperative, but that choice must not infringe on the life of another. Human relationship is established with a mother and her child, whether that child is seen as viable, productive, living, deceased, or aborted. We must take into account that a woman and her child are affected by medical care. What if my parents or my medical team had deemed my life had no value? Please consider any stance you take on the matter of abortion very seriously. I beg you to do all that you can to enhance each life with the capacity to address their basic needs for air, food, water, and relationships. This is truly choice. Yes, we need to provide birth control. Yes, we need to provide medical care and education. Yes, we need to protect children from child predators and from rapists in our community. But we do not need to promote the GRACE Act that would disregard innocent and unique DNA in the womb.
Thank you, ma'am. The next person I have is Caroline Wilkinson. I have a card for Mr. Pena in a minute, so Reverend Pena, do you mind if I wait till it's your turn? Whatever you say. Thank you, sir. The next card I have is Carol Scott.
I did have a handout for the council members.
Okay. We can distribute those through our city secretary.
Michelle, she had a handout.
And Ms. Scott, when you're getting as you're getting ready, what I would just say is if we, because of the number of cards we have today, when the buzzer goes off, the buzzer goes off. That means we've hit the 3-minute mark. There's going to be a lot of sweet people, I'm sure, that are going to be speaking tonight. Please don't be offended when I try to wrap up those comments succinctly to keep the meeting moving orderly. We have 3 minutes per person. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. My name is Carol Scott. I'm executive pastor at Christ the King Church. I'm here today to speak in regards to the issue of abortion. And I want to keep this kind of personal as well. I was recently on vacation on a family reunion. In my family, we have 7 kids under the age of 7. And so it was a great fun. But we have 2 teenagers that were there as well. So I had a conversation with these beautiful young women, 13 and 16-year-old, biracial. And I want to tell you guys the same thing that I told these young ladies. The time to decide whether or not you're ready to bring life into the world is before conception, not after. We know medically that once conception occurs, everything needed for human life is present. A process begins that will develop into a fully functioning human being. Life is valuable. Murder is murder. Whether the person is fully functioning adult, in a coma, or in a womb, intentionally killing is wrong. It's never right to end a life. And 2 wrongs, not preventing the conception and then ending the life, do not make a right. I come from a family that went through 2 teenage pregnancies in the 80s. Thankfully, both of my sisters chose life. And now, between my 2 sisters and me, we have 3 daughters that teach and work with children in special education in the public schools. I mean, that generation could have been lost had my sisters or I chosen differently. To me, that's amazing. What a legacy. I would say to anyone considering abortion, I know it seems bleak now, but your life is not over, and you will always look back on this decision and wonder, what if? My sisters were blessed. They had the support of my parents who helped them raise those children and go to school. And I know not everyone has that kind of a family, but there are alternatives out there. My youngest sister first thought she would give the baby up for adoption. She actually moved out of the house at 15 into San Antonio into a home where she could have the baby and give it up. There's always an option. And I repeat, the time to make that decision is before you engage in the act of conception. I also know that once life is ended, you can never go back and restart it. It is more than a tragedy to end life. We must protect and help the most vulnerable among us. That includes the mothers who are in the situations that would have them contemplate the abortion. We must help and save them both, and we, as a city and region, must not turn a blind eye to those who would commit infant sacrifice on the altar of convenience or hopelessness or fear.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Patricia Dungan, followed by Peter Klob. I know I'm not saying these names right, everybody. I apologize. Is Ms. Dungan here? All right. Mr. Kolb. But before that, I'm going to read the next 5 names, and that is Laura Ramirez, Laura Wilhite, Lilu Dien, and Stephen Bowles. Those are the next 5 names again. That is Laura Ramirez, Laura Wilhite, Lilu Dien, and Steve Bowles. Those will be the next 5. Mr. Kolb.
Mayor Meek, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak here to you this evening. Proverbs 3, verse 8 tells us to speak for the voiceless, those who don't have a voice. And so I want to encourage you, as you look and as possible things might come down the road, that we look to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, especially the unborn. But also, too, to ask our police officers to not do their duty. It takes away their voice, too. They are here to serve and protect. We've heard some great things this evening about the unbound, protecting those, helping those in need, making our city a city of refuge. I look forward to learning more about Unbound, a place to help children. But we want to help children too who are unborn. And we ask that you would indeed consider not going down this road of this Grace Act, if that would come into your council. As Christians, we are called to love our neighbors. That includes moms, babies, and even dads. We live in a city that has many great opportunities, but also we have a city that is here to help those in need. CareNet Pregnancy Center is world-class. Cities from all over the United States come to visit our CareNet Pregnancy Center to see how they help women, moms, dads, babies, to see how they can duplicate those around where they are. And so let us continue to encourage CareNet in helping protect moms, babies, and even helping dads. We're called to help and love our neighbor. Let's not kill our neighbors. Let's protect, let's help, and let's care. We indeed want to keep our children safe. When I moved here to Waco 4 years ago, Waco was known for the Branch Davidians and the tragedy that happened there. Thankfully, that has come to our past. Our city is known for so much more now, and we're thankful for that. Let's not put a scourge on our city by saying we want to kill our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Laura Ramirez, followed by Laura Wilhite.
My name is Laura Ramirez. I appreciate this opportunity to come before the City Council. We are doing great things in our city. You guys are doing great work. I see that you have a heart for this city. This is the heart of Texas. And so what we do here represents the heart of our state. I want to encourage you, City Council. I wish that you had gone into the overflow room and saw the crowds that were there. There are many here that are taking advantage of having a voice these days. No longer sitting by silent, no longer just allowing the loud, raging voices of others to dictate opinions that we do not hold ourselves. I've lived in Waco for all of my life. This is a wonderful city to raise our children in. And I've been to Austin many times. I've been to Dallas. Those cities have embraced the Grace Act. So I don't see a need for the city of Waco to even entertain that. But as it comes before the council, or as it comes before even our city, we need to make a decision. The Bible says in Matthew 5:37 to let what you say simply be yes or no. Anything more comes from evil. I want to encourage you, City Council, that you have been given a great responsibility, and it is a privilege and a position that has been granted to you by God. In Romans 13:1, it says, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. I want to encourage you that though you may hear some loud voices screaming in agreement for the Grace Act, there is a majority of people in this city who love this city, who don't want that stain on our city. We want to be the heart of Texas. We want to be that city in the middle where we're that hometown that we can raise our children safely. There are many things on the agenda of this city that need to be at your attention. Of course, growth is one, but also the crime rate. There's so much going on in this city. We do not need to invoke such an act on the officers that we have here that are serving so faithfully. Daniel chapter 2:21 says, it is God who changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and leaders and establishes kings and leaders. He gives wisdom to the wise and greater knowledge to those who have understanding. Again, I want you to understand that your position and the privilege that you have to serve this community has been granted by God. I pray that you would take that responsibility seriously, because of the decisions you make here. You will face God at one point and answer for those. So I pray you take the heart of this city and answer for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next, we have Laura Wilhite, followed by Lilu Dien.
First of all, thank you so much for your service to the city. Dearly loved, this is what you are. You didn't earn it, you don't deserve it, and neither do I. However, the Creator of the universe loves you and me and has given us the gift of life. That is what grace is. The definition of grace is as follows, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary. 1, unmerited divine assistance given to humans for their regeneration or sanctification. 2, a virtue coming from God. Every time I sign a letter, I sign it all as grace, a gift. And that is indeed what grace is, a gift. When you receive a Christmas gift, do you run over it with your car or put a hammer to it before opening it? Of course not. You open it and you cherish it. Let's go to the greatest source for truth and find out what a gift is. The Bible says in James 1:17-18, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, with whom there is no change or shifting shadow. He chose us to give birth through the word of truth, that we would be a kind of first fruits of his creation. This is grace. The Grace Act makes no sense starting with its name. It should be called the Sin Act, because it is coming against the laws of God and man, for that matter. The Bible says the wages of sin is death, but the gift, remember grace, the gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus, Romans 6:23. I'm speaking today because I've been on the other side, the dark side, and I've had an abortion more than 30 years ago. It was the darkest day of my life. I hid my secret for years from everyone. No one knew. I didn't tell anyone except for my husband-to-be. And then several years after we married, I went to a women's conference at church, Antioch. I began to sob and even wail uncontrollably. The Holy Spirit said to me, it's time for your secret to come out. So in front of 200 women, I was handed a mic and began to tell of my darkest day. The Bible says there's nothing hidden that won't be revealed. Luke 8:17. Abortion is murder. Murder is sin. You didn't make the baby, God did. He holds the power of life in his hand, and he will not be mocked. Get it? Grace, gift, life. Sin, darkness, death. I have been forgiven of my sin by God's grace through Jesus, by his atoning work on the cross. If you city council members vote yes on this so-called Grace Act, you will be held accountable with no grace or mercy. You can be forgiven, but consequences will follow. Your decision will be dealt with just like my little secret. You won't get away with innocent blood on your hands. I implore you to think about the ramifications of innocent blood on your hands. I implore you to vote against the Sin Act. Remember, all is grace, a gift.
Thank you. Next I have